Welcome to Zanaco Unplugged, the podcast that takes you inside Zambia's biggest bank and brings you conversations with business leaders and creative pioneers. Join us every second Thursday at 10 hours for conversations ranging from leadership and tech to innovation and sustainability. Learn more about the business and creative landscape by subscribing to Zanaco Unplugged on your favorite podcast platform. Search for Zanaco Unplugged and hit the subscribe button. We'll see you every second Thursday at 10 hours. Anyway, welcome to Zanaco Unplugged, the podcast that takes you inside Zambia's biggest bank and puts us in conversation with industry leaders and creative pioneers like our guest today, Vusi Thembekwayo. Do you still go by the Rockstar of Public Speaking?
Yeah, it's still there. Still there. I didn't give myself the title. So
who did?
The former Prime Minister of Australia.
No way.
Yeah, so years ago, 20 years ago, I was on speaking tour in Australia. I was 17, 18, kind of early days of my formative career before I turned professional. And I was staying with a family of Rotarians, and the father in the family of the Rotarians was a member of Parliament.
Right.
So he invited me to deliver a keynote at the Aussie House of Parliament, which I did. And that's how I got the
Rockstar of Public Speaking.
Yeah, John Howard got up and he said, "This young man's the rock star of public speaking," and I loved it. And I was like,
"How you doing, mate? Good day, mate.
I'm keeping it." Yeah.
Vusi, we're just walking off the stage of the Lead Summit. What are your thoughts coming off the stage?
I mean, it was great. Kudos to the good people at Zanaco for putting it together. And great audience, fantastic energy, good buzz, good conversations. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was good.
And considering what you heard, so many success stories, is there any one of them that spoke to you?
Not really. I mean, I think it's, I was interested in the panel. I thought the panel was very interesting. And I was interested in the conversations that were taking place in between that. I'm looking forward now to doing some networking and meeting some people.
Right.
So that'll be good fun.
Is there any particular venture that stood out for you from the Lead Summit?
I'm still waiting for that one opportunity that I'm going to look at here in Zambia and go, that's the one. That's the one to back. And it's not because there aren't any. I think it's just because that I have a particular, very finite set of criteria when I'm looking to do deals. So.
Right.
But everybody here, let me just be clear. Everybody here is doing amazing stuff. The founders are founding, the builders are building. Everybody's doing their own stuff. Yeah.
Vusi, you're an entrepreneur that many of us in business look up to. Are there any particular trends or developments that entrepreneurs should look out for at this point in our lives?
I mean, everybody's talking AI. I think AI is a biggie. I don't know enough about it, but I'm deeply immersed in it. So we're spending a lot of money bringing on board people who understand how it can affect our business. This book, coincidentally, the Magna Carta, we've been working on a reprise for the Magna Carta for the past 8 months. And my head of research working on the new one was like, we can't write a Magna Carta without having something on AI, right? And so there's a lot there for us to learn. So I think that's a big trend. I think I shared it this morning. I think the whole conversation around sex and gender is a big trend. I think that's going to become increasingly a part of the conversations we need to talk about in business. And I think that probably the third trend would be, more federal ways of distributing finance for entrepreneurs. I think entrepreneurs are looking for a lot more personalized financial products where access to finance is based on your unique set of information rather than a demographic blended view of who you are as a founder. So do we score your credit based on your age, your qualification, your education, and your technical skill, as well as your credit record? Or are there other factors that we should be considering? And in the world of alternative data, a friend of mine, Joel, has been working on this for a really long time, building alternative data frameworks so that we can score underrepresented entrepreneurs, predominantly Black African entrepreneurs, better so they can access risk. Right. So not just score what you look like and where you went to school and how educated you are, but also score every other additional element to that. So, for instance, we now know that women, below the ages of 65 and above the age of 40 typically present a lower credit risk, right, than the average man in that same demographic. We know that mothers present a lower credit risk. We know that women who are loaned money in a communal system, where there are three of them who are bonded for the same credit risk, present a lower credit risk than a single individual. And so the question becomes, if we know these things, then how do we price that debt so that a group of women in a rural area somewhere can afford all of a sudden a loan to take their small little business and make it bigger because the loan is structured correctly? So it's something I feel very passionately about, which is how do we broaden access to financial products and how do we broaden access to financial services, predominantly for people who are excluded out of the financial system. I think that's going to be a huge trend going forward.
I know it's taken you such a long time to build a strong brand like you've built today. You know, VT. You could hardly meet people on the streets who don't know Vusi Thembekwayo. True. Truth be told.
Wow.
Yes. Anywhere you go on this planet, you're gonna find somebody who knows Vusi Thembekwayo.
Wow.
Every continent. That's what I believe.
Sure.
How would you advise entrepreneurs, you know, to build their personal brand?
Simple.
And how can that personal brand, you know, help their overall success?
So this is such a good question. It's something I feel so passionately about.
Right.
Branding is a long-term game. And a lot of young people don't understand this. So they treat branding like it's marketing. It's not the same thing. Marketing, branding, and sales are very different disciplines. Add to that, marketing, branding, communications, and sales are very different disciplines. Branding is a long-term game. Secondly, branding never stops. You're constantly working on it. Third, the metric you measure when you're building a brand change over time. So for instance, let's talk about the VT brand, right? So I have an entire team working on the brand. I hope you get the sense. It's not just me.
I know there's people handling your social media, photography, video.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then there's
the way you dress, I'm assuming.
I was about to say, yeah. And then there's people who work on how do we look?
Right.
How do we appear? There's people who work on, and then I've got a whole team that works on just what I look like on stage.
No way.
Yeah, just the stage look, just the
posture, gestures. Somebody's working on that for you.
Everything. And then my presentation, I've got specialized fonts that are downloaded just for my presentation.
Wow.
So we've thought about every single element of the VT brand touch point. Now, those specialized fonts, this is really going to get you. The specialized font you see when you go through my presentation is the same specialized font you'll see if you download any of my stuff online. It's the same specialized font you see.
Consistent with everything
if you go to my website.
The books as well?
100%. So the point is, I mean, you've got to, when you're thinking brand, you can't think, I'm going to put out this piece of content and tomorrow a huge brand is going to approach me and we're going to do a brand campaign. That's not the way branding works. Branding is a long arc. I love drinking tea and coffee. Right. I'm never on stage without a cup of coffee. You would have seen me on stage today. I had a cup of coffee. It's part of my brand because I'm a coffee guy, right? So as a consequence, we're launching a VT coffee brand called Hello Family. Now, why Hello Family? Because if you ever listen to my podcast, I started by saying, hello.
You do that
family.
all the time, yeah.
Right. So when you come into my office at the reception area, the area where you sit, right above it, there's a massive sign that says, Hello Family. So when you're building a brand, like you can't just think, I'm going to put out, and I think this is where a lot of young people, especially young people, make the mistake. The presumption that I've got 20,000 followers, a couple of posts that I've put out on LinkedIn or on YouTube and Instagram, I've now got a brand, and it's not the way it works. Branding is a long-term game.
Well, see, a lot of us, especially I think Black people, love working in silos. You know what I mean? It's like you want people in your neighborhood to celebrate you as this guy who achieved something big, and we love working alone so much. And I think I was giving an example of, and I think I observed this in the Black communities, especially us young guys. We love working on our own, growing something on your own so that people can celebrate you as he did this. But there's always, I believe, the importance in collaborations and partnerships. And I wanted you to give us an example of why collaborations and partnerships are important and how, if you've had any collaborations and partnerships that have succeeded
constantly.
And why they succeeded.
Constantly. So first, just the management around each of my businesses are every single one of my businesses I co-own. I'm not a single owner of any of my businesses, including my public speaking business. I co-own.
And yet we see you alone on stage.
And I'm the guy on stage.
Yeah.
But I've got a team that does the research, a team that does the presentation design. I've got a full-on client fulfillment team that does all of the client interactions, the sales, pre-post, and during. I've got a full-on logistics team. So I've got full-on operators who drive the businesses. So I can sit here with you and know that the operations are being driven. Now, the only way you do that is if you align incentives between yourself and the people that you do business with. And the single most important incentive to align is the income incentive. If I make money, you make money, right? So I think it's really important. Like if you're building something that you want to outlive you, you are better served by working with people who understand how to build long-term institutional things. You know, we've got an accelerated business called the School of Scale. We've graduated over 100 businesses through our program. And every business that we pull into the program, we make them a commitment. We're either going to double your revenue or double your net profit after tax at the end of the year. And it's a 12-month program. And every year we get about 1,000 applications and we only take in 20 businesses into the process. Even in that business, I've got partners, et cetera, et cetera. Wow. So what I would say to every entrepreneur watching this is your ability to scale anything you're doing requires not only that you scale your ideas, but also that you scale your drive and that you scale yourself. And the single most important and effective way of scaling yourself by bringing people around you who are just as motivated at doing the thing you want to do as you are. And as long as people are aligned on the incentive and when you win, they win, then that's a better way to collaborate.
If I picked anything from what you just said there, and that just baffled me right now, you're talking about, longevity because of a partnership, collaboration and all. And you've mentioned how even your public speaking has a co-owner, like a partner.
Yeah.
How does that last without you? The public speaking part of your business.
And by the way, coincidentally, so a lot of people don't know. So my public speaking business sits in our management consulting research business.
Right.
So actually, just less than 40% of the total income in that business is my platform time on stage. I'm on stage about 200 times a year, and I earn predominantly USD. So it gives you a sense that it's not small money, right?
Yeah.
But less than 40% is my time on stage. Most of the income is the work that comes after that and the opportunities that come after that.
You've spoken about being on stage. How many? 200 times a year?
About. We
Give or
average
take.
about, yeah.
And this is, how many businesses are you in before I ask my next question?
Oh, man. Right now, it's only 3. Let me explain.
Yeah.
Let me explain. We've really simplified like everything. So every portfolio company we ever had, we took and made it a portfolio company within the investment company. So I sit in the investment company and the team there looks after all the portfolio companies. Then I've got a personal trust where I sit with some assets across property, energy, et cetera, et cetera. I sit there and there's a management team that runs that. And then the consulting business, which also looks after my speaking business. So those are the only 3 things I do. I must also tell you, beginning of the year, I made the decision to slash almost everything that I was doing. So probably the first 4 months of this year was the most traumatic 4 months I've had in a long time, because there were boards I was sitting in where I exited. There were companies where I was a partner that just didn't make sense anymore, so I exited things. But it's been an incredible gift because I bought back my time. And now I get to do the things I want to do, not the things I have to do because I, committed that I would be in that business.
That sort of ties into the next question I had, because every time I watch you speak, you talk about so many businesses that you're into. There's the venture capital going on. There's a public speaking. There's a travel. What else have I heard you talk about? Quite a number of things. So I'm trying to imagine for a person in your position where so much is going on. Let's talk about your mental well-being for a little bit. How do you manage your mental health with all that busy happening in your life?
I mean, it's a good question. I've become better at it.
Okay.
It takes a while to kind of mature into yourself. There are probably 3 things. The first is I give myself the gift of no often.
Say no to what you don't work on.
It's the most amazing gift you'll ever give yourself. Say no. No, I'm not available to come to that party. No, I can't fly to that place. No, I can't attend that Formula 1 race. No. And often, no, what are you doing? I'm just sitting at home watching Netflix with the kids. Like, that's all I'm doing, right?
I mean, you've got enough money to say no now.
Yeah, and I think it's I think a lot of us, when you're trying to prove yourself, you think by being available all the time, that is how you prove yourself.
Mm.
What I've learned is that the people I admire, the people I look up to, are almost never available. They're almost never available. They're never on TV doing. I mean, one of my mentors, just launched a refinery, and there's not a single interview of him anywhere on Bloomberg or nothing. This is a big deal.
Yeah.
And what does he do? He takes his executives and CEOs, he lets them speak, but he's not speaking. What that tells me is that he's at the stage where, there's a beautiful Buddhist expression. It says, even without announcement, the sun rises every morning. He doesn't need to announce what he's done. He's done it, and everybody's aware that he's done it. So to your question about mental health, I give myself the gift of no often. They're probably about just slightly over 40 at last I checked, different podcasts from around the world that I've asked to interview.
Yeah.
And the answer is either no, not yet, or there's just no alignment.
I know you always say that, which is why I was shocked when I saw you with Penuel a month ago.
Sure.
Well, why do you say yes to his then?
Because Penuel is a thinker.
Deep thinker.
And I only want to talk to, I'm just, if I do one more interview and the conversation is about the things the conversation is always about, I'm going to throw something at someone. Because I feel like, and to your point, you were talking about when we started this interview and we started this conversation, the honor I have to do to you and respecting your platform is to bring my best self. The honor you have to do to your platform and to your audience is to research and prep the conversation,
right, so
that we have a meaningful conversation.
True.
And I said yes to Penuel because he's a thinker. I've also been watching him for a long time.
Same here, man.
Right?
Same here.
Since he was, shooting videos of his
phone. He still does that, though.
Yeah. But back then he was using one of these like close cell phones.
I noticed somebody actually commented on his Instagram the other day, and he was responding. And I'm thinking of making a contribution to his microphone setup as well. Somebody was saying, "Why are you always using your phone? The echo in the room. There's so much technology you can invest in. just to plug into your iPhone and get better video."
Sure.
But regardless of how he puts his content out, there's so much thought put into every post of that guy.
And I think that there's, the mistake would be to see that video. I don't want to get in his mind, right? But as the branding person in me says, the mistake would be to see that video and think that that's by mistake. I don't think that's by mistake. I think that rugged look that he presents, always dressed in black torn t-shirts or never shaved.
Well, he shaved last week though.
I mean, yeah. He and I were together at a. I'll tell you how we actually shaved. He and I were together at a conference 2 weeks ago. And the way the conference happened was they had booked me for the conference and they wanted a Q&A and they asked of me, is there anybody? And I was like, I've got just the guy, call Penuel. And so when they briefed him, they were like, look, man, you
need to clean up.
Yeah, we're going to need to give you a blade or two or something. Anyway, the point is that Penuel is a thinker. He's a smart boy. I think he's got directionality about where he wants to go. But not just that. Is anybody who watches his rough content and thinks that's by mistake, I think you're missing it. I think that's the language. I think that's the palette he's going for. That it's uncurated, it's relatable because he's just taken his phone and he shot something. Rather than how I would do it. The VT brand is a lot more,
cleaned up.
Yeah.
Transcripts.
That's it. And we edit stuff. And,
exactly.
there's background
logo
music.
At the beginning.
Yeah. Logo. And then there's the intro music, outro. I don't think that's the language that he's going for. So, but the point to make is that's why I did his interview. Just because, I've got a few more coming up with some very interesting guys. But again, it's different conversations with people who respect their platforms and therefore, I think would make for a great conversation.
Vusi, one more question. I know our director here is looking at me like, I just need to squeeze in one more.
Take your time.
And this is something I know you're very passionate about, and I feel every Zambian watching this is or needs to hear this. Your idea on thinking small. You always talk about small businesses and how they really, annoy you when somebody talks about small business. You know what I mean? I just need that emphasis to come out to our viewers, why we should start thinking bigger as Africans especially.
Africa's problems are so big that for the best amongst us to think a small solution is going to solve our big problems is just selfish. That's actually why it upsets me. So you're finding young graduates with honors level qualification. You're finding former executives in large corporates who leave to start their own business, thinking small because they've been told it should be a small business. But we've got big problems, whether it's access to decent education, access to reticulated water, access to sanitation and hygiene, access to financial services, whether it's how do we improve the quality of life for the average citizen. All of these are big problems that are the lived reality of hundreds of millions of other Africans, which means that the population set for a potential solution is hundreds of millions of people. Why would you think small? And the problem is that the mindset precedes the accomplishment. So the minute you say you're a small business, you behave like a small business.
And you stay.
And you stay a small business. Yeah. By the way, I must tell you, I had the same problem. When I started, it was a small business. And I was like, oh, it's cool. It's paying my bills. It was only when I broadened my worldview and had more exposure to people coming from different cultures. And they were looking at me going, why are you always thinking so small? In fact, I remember the exact conversation was with my rabbi, and he was like, I was talking to him about some debt I needed to raise for a transaction I wanted to do. And I told him the amount, and he was like, why are you always talking such small numbers? And for me, this was a couple of zeros. What do you mean small? It was like, this is small. He was like, I'm going to phone so-and-so. And he did. Picked up the phone, he phoned so-and-so and so-and-so. And before I knew it, the guys were like, come and see us on Monday. Those guys eventually didn't back the transaction. Somebody else did. But that opened me up to people who talk and think big. Now, everything we are was built by people that thought big. The phone you're using, the apps on that phone.
True.
Right. So I think as Africans, the world has happened to us. Maybe it's time we happen to the world. Maybe it's our turn, right?
Yeah.
And I don't mean us going to where they are and then replicating what they've done. I mean from where we are, building for the rest of the world to take us seriously. So yeah, that's why I feel so strongly about this small thing. I always say to people, start small, but don't think small. There is, although fundamental, a big difference between the two. You can start small, but don't think small. So whatever the metric are in your business that you are measuring, make sure you measure the metric that matter. Because a lot of small businesses, typically also what keeps a small business small is you measure the wrong metric. So for instance, if you're running a small business, profitability is an important metric for a small business.
Right.
No, a growing business, cash flow is an important metric. So I don't care about being profitable. I care that I've got more money coming in than I've got money going out of the system. Right. Another one, a metric for a small business would be how much money a customer spends with you. Right.
Right.
A metric for a person who's trying to scale their business is how much of the customer's wallet are you getting? There's a difference. My customer's spending $10 for a cup of tea with me.
Right.
They're spending $10. But if their budget per month for beverages is $150, then I'm at less than 10% of their budget.
Yeah.
So I'm not really interested in the $10 they're spending. I'm interested in how do I get the full $150.
Yeah.
Do you get it?
Yeah.
So the metric we measure is actually an important thing about, and it also allows you to ask customers different questions. For instance, hey, you're buying my tea. Why? Oh, because I like tea. What else do you like? When do you buy it? Where do you buy it? How do you buy it? When do they deliver it? Okay, great. If I supplied you with, the next time you come for your tea purchase, if I added all the other beverages and I discounted the price and allowed you to pay me later, would you do it? Yeah, all of a sudden you've increased your customer share of wallet.
Yeah,
See?
Yeah.
So the metric we measure as entrepreneurs is fundamental. And then the third metric is, I see a lot of small businesses measure the metric of marketing expense. How much is my marketing costing me? Growing businesses measure the metric of customer acquisition cost. So they don't go, how much is my marketing? They go, if I took my marketing and all the other costs to acquire my customers and I divided them by the number of customers I'm getting, what's that number? And as long as the number I'm earning per customer I'm acquiring is higher than the amount of money it costs me to acquire that customer, then I'm going to keep throwing money down. So if you go to, I'll give you a quick example, and I know we're thin on time. My TikTok, when we first started it, I'll tell you the interesting story about my TikTok. I was at the gym, and one of the trainers at the gym, a guy called Brent, comes to me. He's like, dude, you should be on TikTok. I was like, no, TikTok's for children. My kids are on TikTok. I'm
old.
VT. I'm too important. Like, you know, I'm like, I'm in a suit. What you talking? He's like, dude, TikTok's the next thing. I'm like, ah. Then he went on TikTok and he went on the search button, clicked my name, and he hit search. And at the time, my name had been searched, I remember vividly, 13.9 million views.
Wow.
And he was like...
And there was no content for
And
you.
it wasn't my channel. What was actually happening was other people had created a
Shorts.
channel with my content. And they were posting this.
Wow.
And one of the guys had like 5,000 followers. And I was like,
Of
wait.
your content.
He was pretending to be me. And I was like, no, this can't be right. So I said, all right, okay, I'll get my people to look at it. Anyway, so we started looking at it. We started building content for my TikTok. We went from 0 to 30,000, I think in about the first month. Wow. We're on 800,000 or 700,000 now. And I've given the team. Yeah. I gave the team.
In the space of how long?
About
to 800,000?
13 months. And I said to the team, I said to them, by the end of Q3, you guys have got to hit a million followers on TikTok. And so the setting about investing in a studio and all the rest of it is because it supports that.
Right.
Now, here's what's interesting. In the time, I've probably made about, maybe let me not say the number, but let's just say I've made, every follower I've gained on TikTok has made me $1. So you can multiply the number of dollars I've made. And here's what's actually happened. People go, how does that even work? It's actually quite simple.
Times dollars.
It's actually quite simple, right? So people go, how does that work? I didn't realize this. So we're spending all of this money to market the VT brand. We're running Google ads, you know, and all of this other stuff that our Google search agency is doing, and they do phenomenal stuff. Stuff on YouTube. We're promoting stuff on Meta. Holy smokes. People go and watch your TikTok. If they like it, they click save video. They post it as a status. And now everybody who follows them on WhatsApp watches your video. You know what happens after that?
Nope.
Somebody then goes, can you send me that video?
Yes.
So now they're forwarding it and their people are watching it. You will not believe the number of times. I got a call the other day from somebody in Liechtenstein who was like, I just watched your video. He called the office a couple of times and then eventually got through to me because the office was like, this guy's bogus. And eventually he gets through to, he's like, listen, I just watched your video. I run an advertising agency in Liechtenstein. We've got a conference happening next year. I just wanted to make sure you're real. I'm like, no, I'm real. He says, all right, my people are going to get a hold of your people and we're doing this. Euro deal, just like that. But how it happened was a couple of WhatsApp statuses and it all started from TikTok. So the point I'm making is the metric we measure matters. And you've got to measure the right metric to make sure that you're growing and scaling.
You can't tell me you haven't learned anything on this episode. Wow. I'm mind blown right now. I've got 10,000 followers on TikTok and I'm thinking I'm going to...
You got 10,000 followers on TikTok?
Yeah.
What content predominantly do you post?
Mostly my podcast clips.
Yeah, that'll do. Yeah. That'll do. I mean, my team's trying to do this whole, they're like, you know, people on TikTok love the personal stuff. Yeah, I have a very strict policy about that. That's why I always say to people, Vusi Thembekwayo is not VT.
Wait, what's the difference? VT is the brand? Vusi is the person?
Yeah, Vusi works for VT. I'm not VT. I work for VT. Let me tell you, hold on. And I know they keep giving you the eye, right? Because they're like, you got to cut it short. Listen.
They're actually worried about you and lunch.
Let me put it to you this way, right? So the minute I recognize that I work for the brand,
right, then
there were certain things the brand has to do that I don't want to do, but the brand's got to do it.
Damn, I've never thought of it that way.
Yeah. So when you're, you know, if Tom Cruise wins an Academy Award, he wins it for how he portrayed a certain role.
Ethan Hunt.
Exactly, right? If, I don't know, Jeff Bezos wins an award, he wins it for his role as CEO of Amazon.
Right.
Right. which means even he knows it's a role. And for whatever reason, as entrepreneurs, we don't separate between the person and the role. That's why you find a lot of entrepreneurs who struggle to make difficult decisions, like firing people. They go, well, I don't like firing. It's not about what you like.
Problem right
Yeah. See? And it's not about what you like. It's about what that role requires of you if you're to succeed. If this is to succeed and you want to be successful with this, then a part of your role is the ability to make difficult decisions.
Go, you're fired. Man, there's so much to unpack when it comes to the Vusi brand, the VT brand, and Vusi Thembekwayo, but that requires another podcast and another time. And
makes sense why it says VT on the book now, right?
That's why I looked at the cover when you mentioned that. That's why I did look at the cover when you said that. It makes sense now, and there's just a signature on the cover.
Y'all should have seen me coming.
I will not say what's on my mind when you just said that, but hey, I'm sure we've all learned a lot from this episode. Zanaco Unplugged. My name is Kalenga. To the next episode, Vusi, thanks a lot for making time, and wishing you all the best in all your endeavors.
Thank you, brother.
To the next episode, have a lovely day.